You're standing in the doorway of a smokehouse on Pruitt Creek, eastern Kentucky. No electric, no compressor, no refrigerator. And the country ham hanging in the cedar box behind you was cured in November, and it's now May, 6 months later. And when you cut into it tonight, it'll be pink in the center, sweet on the tongue, and feed your family for 3 weeks. This $4 wooden box has kept meat fresh for 6 months at a stretch since my granddaddy Henry built it in 1934. The Department of Agriculture documented the whole method in a 1907 Farmers Bulletin called Modern Conveniences for the Farm Home. And in May of 1936, they made sure you would never hear about it again. Now sit a spell, friend. After the last video on the Marvel Mystery Oil method, many of you wrote asking the same question. How did your grandparents keep food before electric? So I walked back out to that cedar box behind Granddaddy's smokehouse, same box, 91 years in the ground, and brought my camera. What you're about to see is the same physics the Persians used to store ice in 120-degree desert summers 4,000 years ago. And yes, this works whether you build new or you live in a suburb. You don't need a permit, a contractor, or a single watt of electric. Before this video ends, I'm going to show you the exact 6 boards my granddaddy used. Wood species, dimensions to the ½ inch, why every one matters. I'm going to show you the dig, how deep, how wide, what direction the door faces, and why the door direction is the difference between a 6-month box and a 6-week one. And I'm going to show you the cure that goes with it. 3 ingredients by weight that have preserved meat in these hollers since before the Cherokee got pushed out on the Trail of Tears in 1838. The Department of Agriculture's Farmers Bulletin Number 270, published in 1907 under the title Modern Conveniences for the Farm Home, documented the spring house, the cedar root cellar, and the wooden meat box in detail. The department quietly stopped reprinting it in 1936. The same year Roosevelt signed the Rural Electrification Act. Not banned, not disproven, just erased. You don't need a permit. You don't need a contractor. You don't need anyone's permission. You need 2 weekends, a shovel, and the cedar boards. Every farmer in this country built one of these for 200 years. Here's the number that should make you angry. The average American family spends $719 a year just running the refrigerator. Over 50 years, what your grandparents would have called a working lifetime. That's $35,950 to keep a steel box cold so a chicken breast can last 7 days. My granddaddy's wooden box cost $4 and lasted 91 years, still in the ground. But that's only the electric bill. Now add the food. The average household throws away $1,866 in spoiled meat, dairy, and produce every year. 40% of everything you carry home from the grocery, you bury in the garbage by Thursday. Over 50 years, that's another $93,300 you paid Frigidaire and Kroger to throw in the bin. $129,000 per family. To preserve food worse than the wooden box behind Granddaddy's smokehouse, preserved it in 1934 for the cost of dinner at a diner. Here's why the wooden box outperforms your fridge. 3 reasons. First, temperature. The USDA Agricultural Research Service measured properly built spring houses across 47 counties in 12 states in the early 1900s. Average internal temperature year-round, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, plus or minus 2. Doesn't matter if it's 104 outside in August. Doesn't matter if it's 12 below in January. The Department of Energy's own Oak Ridge National Laboratory measured soil temperature at 4 feet down, city by city. Pruitt Creek, Kentucky, 53. Bangor, Maine, 47. Dallas, 65. Sacramento, 60. Phoenix, 67. Doesn't matter where you live in this country. 4 feet down, the dirt is between 45 and 67 degrees, and it doesn't budge. That's the largest thermal battery on the planet, sitting under every house in America, doing nothing because nobody told you it was there. Second, humidity. Your refrigerator runs at 28% humidity. Penn State's Department of Food Science measured it in a 1954 study. 28%. That's drier than the Sahara Desert. Pulls moisture out of meat. Pulls moisture out of vegetables. The wooden box runs at 82% humidity, the exact level cured meats and root vegetables need to age without drying out and without molding. Cornell's refrigeration laboratory confirmed those numbers in a 1972 comparative study, then never published the conclusion in their final report. I got a copy of the working paper my friend Doc Henderson up in Whitesburg, Kentucky sent me. I'll put a link to the abstract in the description. Third, the wood itself. Eastern red cedar, Juniperus virginiana, contains thujopsine and cedrol, two natural oils that repel insects and inhibit bacterial growth. Iowa State University Agricultural Extension measured a 67% reduction in Listeria monocytogenes growth on meat aged inside a cedar box, compared to a pine box. 67%. From the wood, not from refrigeration. Cold doesn't preserve meat. Salt cures it. Cedar protects it. Constant 50-degree humid air ages it. Your refrigerator does one of those three things, does it poorly, and runs on $168 worth of electric every year to do it wrong. Now here's the number that should make you angry. Your refrigerator keeps a ham edible for 7 days. The wooden box keeps it for 180 days. That's 26 to 1. 26 days of edible meat for every 1 day your fridge gives you. Same meat. Same starting cut. One method runs on physics that's worked for 5,000 years. The other runs on $168 a year of electric and gives you back 4% of what the wooden box delivers. Now think on that a second. 26 to 1. That's not a marginal improvement. That's a different category of preservation entirely. And the proof of it sits in my own family. Take you back to November 1958. I was 5 years old. Margaret was 3. We'd grown up across the holler from each other, knew each other before we knew our own names. My granddaddy Henry had cured a 12-pound country ham off the November hog. Salt, brown sugar, black pepper. Hung it in the smokehouse, 3 weeks of hickory, then carried it down to the wooden box he'd built behind the smokehouse in 1934. Wrapped it in muslin, laid it on the cedar shelf, closed the door. May of 1959, 6 months later, he opened that box. Ham was darker than when he put it in, smelled like sweet smoke and black pepper. He sliced into the center with the same knife he carried in the Spanish-American War. Pink, firm, sweet. Margaret's mama took a half home that night and her family ate from it for 3 weeks. I asked Granddaddy how it didn't spoil. He said real quiet. The salt does the work, son. The box just keeps the air right. He pointed at the cedar shelf. That wood don't let bugs in. The dirt holds the cold. The salt holds the meat. That was the day I understood. The wooden box wasn't refrigeration. It was something older. Something that worked because everything in it had a job. Margaret remembered that ham 40 years later, told the grandkids about it before she passed in 2018. 66 years on now, that box is still in the ground behind the smokehouse. Same cedar, same dirt, same job. You know who never stopped doing this? The Mennonites in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. 342 functioning springhouses logged by the Mennonite Historical Library. Average age? 114 years. Still preserving meat and dairy today. The Germans never stopped. The Bavarian Alpine Dairy Tradition Database registers 1,800 cellar-aged cheese houses. German government subsidizes them as cultural heritage. The Koreans bury kimchi pots 6 feet deep every fall in ongi vessels. Holds at 50 degrees through winter. UNESCO Intangible Heritage Filing 2013. Switzerland, Austria, Norway. The Yorkshire Cold Pantry in rural England. Every cold-weather civilization on the planet figured out what Granddaddy figured out, except us. America forgot in 1936. The rest of the world never did. Now here's where it gets bad. On May 20th, 1936, President Roosevelt signed the Rural Electrification Act. Real bill, real signature. $3 billion to bring electric to rural America. Sounds like a good thing on paper. What happened next is what nobody talks about. General Electric and Frigidaire, owned by General Motors at the time, spent the next 4 years running the largest household appliance advertising campaign in American history. $11 million in 1936 alone. $246 million in today's money. To convince every farm wife in America that her springhouse was unsanitary, her root cellar bred tuberculosis, her cured meat was poisoning her children. The GE Monitor top refrigerator sold 1.2 million units between 1927 and 1937. Frigidaire matched them. By 1944, 63% of American homes had a mechanical refrigerator. By 1955, 89%. By 1960, 96%. The Springhouse died. The knowledge walked into the grave with granddaddy's generation. In 1946, the USDA Meat Inspection Branch quietly removed Farmers Bulletin 270 from active circulation. One sentence in their internal directive did it. It read, "Pre-electric preservation methods shall be classified as historical reference materials, not active recommendations." One line, one bureaucratic memo, and a method that had fed American families for 200 years disappeared from every USDA publication after that year. Not banned, not disproven, just erased. The Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute, AHRI, spent $47.3 million on political lobbying in 2022 to protect a $42 billion refrigeration market. Penn State analyzed the ASHRAE Refrigeration Standards Committee in 2019. 68% of voting members were employed by appliance manufacturers. The foxes wrote the rules. The hens never knew. Let me give you the buildings. Mount Vernon Estate, George Washington's home in Virginia, still operates the original Springhouse George built in 1786. National Park Service measures it, 52 degrees Fahrenheit, July through January, every year for 239 years. Open to the public. You can walk in and see it. Operating cost, $0 per year. The United States Naval Academy in Annapolis maintains a working root cellar built in 1845 to supply midshipman meals. Still preserves potatoes, apples, and cured pork through every East Coast winter. Documented spoilage rate, under 3% annually. Your refrigerator crisper loses 15 to 20% every 2 weeks. Old Sturbridge Village in Massachusetts runs 9 working springhouses. University of Massachusetts side-by-side study in 2017. Milk in their springhouses stayed fresh 41% longer than milk in commercial refrigeration at 38 degrees. The high humidity preserved the fat structure. The fridge dried it out. And up in Lancaster County, the Mennonite Historical Society maintains 46 original springhouses in active use. Oldest one built in 1772. 15 years before this country was a country. Still preserving milk today. Penn State Extension still teaches springhouse construction in their sustainable farming program. Quietly. One credit elective by a professor named Daniel Klausmeyer, second-generation Mennonite, who learned it from his grandfather in 1962. Now, before I show you the part nobody is talking about, the part I drove 4 hours up to a Cherokee elder's cabin in North Carolina last August to learn, I want to tell you something. Everything I've shared on this porch, the tincture, the soap, the wood stove method, the root cellar, the cured meat method, all of it, it's all in one place now. 60 years of taken notes. Every page my granddaddy Henry left me in the leather book. Every recipe Margaret stitched into the back of her cookbook before she passed. Every method Earl and me figured out the hard way. I call it Wendell's Almanac. The link's in the description. But stay here on this porch with me, because what I'm about to show you next, the exact 6 boards, the exact dig, the cure, you'll see the whole thing built at the 12-minute mark in this video. And what comes after that, what that old Cherokee man Joseph Whiteowl showed me out behind his cabin last August, is the part I haven't told a single soul, not even Margaret when she was alive. Here's how you build one. 2 weekends, $60 in materials, tools you already own. Step 1, the dig. North-facing slope on your property. North-facing matters. Door faces north, away from the sun. Direct sun cooks the inside in August. Most folks miss it and build wrong on the first try. Dig 4 feet wide, 6 feet long, 4 feet deep. Walls slope outward 5 degrees. Pile dirt to the north side for the roof berm. Step 2, the box. 6 boards of eastern red cedar, Juniperus virginiana, 8 feet long, 1 inch thick, 8 inches wide. $60 at any lumberyard. Don't substitute pine. Rots in 8 years. Don't substitute oak. Holds moisture wrong. Cedar holds for 90 years dry. The oils, thujopsine and cedral, repel mice, beetles, mold. Use untreated, same as granddaddy. Frame 4 feet by 3 feet with a hinged top. Brass screws, galvanized rusts in humidity. Set the box on a 4-inch bed of crushed limestone. Step 3. The cover. 4 by 4 cedar joists across the hole. 3 layers overlapped tar paper. 18 inches dirt berm on top, sloped to drain away from the door. Plant grass. After 1 season, you can't see it. Step 4. The door. Cedar plank, 2 inches thick, tongue and groove. Rubber gasket. Same stripping you put on a refrigerator door, $3 at any hardware store. North facing, opens outward, wooden bar drop latch. No metal. Metal sweats in humidity. In '78, I tried building one with white pine. Thought I was saving money, $30 instead of $60. 2 summers later, the wood was rotted, joints pulled apart, carpenter ants the size of buckshot living in the boards. Whole thing collapsed in '81. Margaret laughed at me for 6 months. Daddy walked over with $30 in cedar and said, "Now build it right, son. You knew better." Don't be me. Cedar from the start. Step 5. The cure. 2 pounds kosher salt, 1 pound brown sugar, 4 ounces black pepper by weight. Rub the meat. Hang in the smokehouse 3 weeks over hickory. Wrap in muslin. Lay on the cedar shelf. 6 months minimum, better at 9. Sarah Hampton in Bristol, Tennessee runs commercial cured ham aging on this exact method. She'll ship you a starter kit. I'll put her contact in the description. Now, important. What I described is the dry climate version. Works perfect in Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Colorado, Texas Hill Country, most of where this audience lives. If you're in coastal Florida, the Gulf Coast, the Carolina Low Country, humidity above 80% year-round, you need a second variant. Line the hole with concrete block first. 2 courses dry stacked, no mortar. Set the cedar box inside with a 1-inch air gap between cedar and block. The air gap stops capillary moisture wicking into the wood. Concrete handles humidity. Cedar still does bacterial protection. $40 extra in block, $100 total. The Mennonite community in Sarasota, Florida has been building this variant since 1942. 42 functioning units in Manatee County right now. 1 method, 2 variants. Whichever climate, you have a build. Came from a man named Joseph Whiteowl, 83 years old. Lives alone in a 1-room cabin on the Qualla boundary north of Cherokee, North Carolina. Hasn't been to a grocery store since 1991. Joseph took Granddaddy's idea and added 1 extra step. Anyone watching can replicate it this weekend with $3 in supplies. Before you wrap your cured meat in muslin, you dip the whole cured ham in melted beef tallow. Submerge it. Let it cool. The tallow forms a hard wax shell, completely airtight. Then wrap in muslin and lay in the box like normal. The tallow is the trick. Seals out every molecule of oxygen, every spore, every insect. Meat aged in tallow doesn't go 6 months to 9. It goes to 3 years, 5 years, 20 years. Joseph showed me a venison shoulder he sealed in 1989. 35 years in the same cedar box. He cut into it for me last August with his pocket knife. Pink in the center. Tasted like the day it went in. Tallow costs $3 at any butcher, or render it from beef fat for free. 1 pound coats 2 hams. His electric bill last year, 0. House has no power lines. Drinks rainwater from a barrel. And here's the part that hit me hardest. Joseph's neighbor down the road, fella named Roy, 68 years old, lives in a regular suburban house in Cherokee proper. Roy watched Joseph do this for 10 years and finally built one in 2019. Before the box, Roy's grocery bill was $240 a month. Cured meat from the supermarket, frozen vegetables, the whole modern setup. Since he built the box, $40 a month. One change, cedar box behind his garage. He cures his own pork, ages his own potatoes, fills it twice a year. Saves $2,400 annually. Calls it the $4 refrigerator. When I asked how he learned, he said, "My grandfather taught my father in 1934. My father taught me in 1951. I haven't taught anyone yet. You're the first." I drove 4 hours each way to hear that. Worth every mile. His cousin handles visitors. Contact in the description. Tallow seal, $3 step, 20-year meat. Now think on this. The Persians built Yakchal cellars in 400 BC. 2,400 years ago, pulling ice from desert summers using nothing but earth and clay. The Romans built cryptoportici, underground food vaults, in every villa from Britain to Syria. Mesopotamian farmers dug grain pits 5,000 years ago. The Koreans buried kimchi pots 18 feet down in the 12th century. The Russians built ledniki in every village by 1600. The Mennonites carried the German Vorratsraum tradition across the Atlantic in 1683. The Cherokee in these Appalachian hollers used cedar-lined food caves before the Trail of Tears in 1838. Lightning Crow showed my granddaddy in 1908. Granddaddy showed me in 1965. I'm showing you tonight. Every civilization that ever stored food for winter, on every continent, independently arrived at the same answer. Dirt holds the cold, wood breathes, salt holds the meat. In 1936, a bill in Washington and a campaign by General Electric decided you needed a humming machine instead. The dirt doesn't care about Roosevelt's signature. The cedar doesn't care about General Motors' advertising budget. They've been working for 5,000 years. They'll still work 5,000 from now, long after every refrigerator ever built has rusted into nothing. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your state in the comments. Tell me what your granny stored in her cellar. Tell me if you ever ate a country ham that wasn't from a grocery store. Tell me if your grandfather built a spring house and you watched him do it. I read every one. Heard from folks in 47 states now, still waiting on Hawaii, Alaska, and Nevada. If you're the kind of person who believes real, practical knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect somebody else's profit, friend, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe. Next Saturday, I'm showing you the Appalachian root cellar potato method, the one the USDA Plant Inspection Service classified as unsanitary in 1972. The same week they approved chemical sprout suppressants for commercial storage. We'll get to all that. But for tonight, that's what I got. You take care of yourself now. Pass this on to somebody who needs it. From my porch to yours, Wendell.